Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So, I bought this pressure washer a while ago and I'm finally getting to use it. So, it's a Bauer 2000 PSI one. It flows 1.3 gallons per minute and I bought this at Harbor Freight. I think I got it probably like New Year's Day kind of thing. So one of those sales where they give you like 20% off or something. And it's pretty handy looking. I went a corded electric one just because I kind of didn't want to have to worry about having any kind of motor maintenance with it. So hopefully this works out pretty good. My experience with pressure washers are most of what I had when I was overseas. And we had big wash stations where we'd wash the machines off. And also we had a pressure washer trailer that we acquired. And that had a really nice pressure washer on it. I don't remember if it was a gas or diesel motor, and then it had a heater on it, which was amazing because it's cleaning with cold water versus cleaning with hot water. It's like suddenly adding soap. And all in all, this is pretty simple to assemble. It comes with 4 tips and a tip cleaner. So the tip cleaner is kind of in with the instructions. So you'll kind of want that because it's really handy to have. These can get clogged up. And then it's just a teeny tiny little itty bitty hole that's in there that you have to unclog. So having that little, almost like a paperclip sized pin to jam down in there is pretty handy. I put a little bit of tape on it, that way it's easier to see, and then wrapped it around this one, which is the soap nozzle. So hopefully this doesn't escape in any way, shape, or form, and it'll be easy to find. At the same time, I did buy another set because sometimes these get misplaced or lost, as well as a can for kind of like maintaining these once you're done with them. That way you're not leaving like the inside of the pump exposed to the ravages of the world. And then assembly is pretty easy. So they've got really good instructions. Now granted, the instructions seem to have changed a little bit. So on here you see the lower frame and there's a hole through the lower frame. Whereas on this one, it's like they've welded in a lower section for that to go through instead of punching a hole through the frame. And then you kind of snap this upper section in. So it's got these little sprung detents. That pops down in here. You attach the holder here with the screws. These screws are just going into simple plastic, so they don't need to be super tight. I kind of wish they were going into something a little bit stronger because that's where you're putting the gun. And then, you know, maybe you're gentle with it, maybe you're not gentle. I'm willing to bet I'm going to wind up messing something up sometime. And the storage one's about the same thing. So that's also just simple screws going into plastic. No need to super tighten them. So just as long as you get them good and tight, no need to keep cranking on them because you'll probably wind up stripping it out. It feels like it's really soft plastic. And then it says to check the water supply. So you want to make sure you got plenty of water. So this pressure washer needs twice the water supply of the listed water output. So it says it's like a 1.3 gallon per minute. So essentially I need 2.6 to 3 gallons per minute. And you can check the flow rate by essentially, you know, having a flow rate gauge, better known as a 5-gallon bucket. And then basically just running the water into the bucket and timing that for about a minute. Or you could do 30 seconds and then multiply that by 2. So I did a full minute just because I didn't really feel like disconnecting that at the moment because I need to blow off the bug zapper and get that clean real quick. So through the wand, I still got pretty hefty amount of a 5-gallon bucket in a little bit under a minute. So that's probably restricting a little bit of flow too. So I've definitely got at least 4 gallons in a minute and should be good. And then this has a lot of good information on it. So use proper electrical supply. I've got this GFCI unit out here. So this should be a good one to use. You don't want the plug-in to be on the ground and somewhere it's going to get wet. And then you also want to plan out the job. So you want to make sure that the area is kind of clean around it. You want to kind of start it from higher areas first and then work your way down. And you also want to check for runoff to make sure that, you know, the runoff's going to a safe place. So like if this was somewhere where, you know, I was gonna be underneath it the whole time, or if there was a big dip, then all the water might be going in that big dip. So you might want to do whatever you're blasting off or cleaning off in that big dip first. That way you're not standing in that puddle working an electronic pressure washer and maybe possibly risking something weird happening. And then it also has a good breakdown of, you know, what you should do when you try and do the wand. So whenever you go to trigger the wand, there's going to be an immense amount of a beginning pressure. So instead of just pointing at what you want to do and then pulling the trigger, you'll want to kind of point it off to the side somewhere safe, fire it, because that'll release all the bent up or pent up pressure, and then move on to the surface you're looking to clean. That way the big spiked amount of pressure that'll first blast will be regulated down to the proper pressure once you get actually onto the surface you want to clean. And then it does give you some how-to for cleaning windows, you know, be careful. And then I think just about everything it says use low impact fan spray, which is probably a good idea to do. That's like a initial thing for most situations. So unless you're doing something that you know can take a really good blast. So on my deck, I'm willing to bet there's certain areas, like right here where the railing used to be, that's probably not the strongest bit of wood. Same thing with some of these other areas. I'm going to start with the 45 or the 40 degree nozzle, so kind of light. It'll be interesting to see if it's able to blast off the old traction tape or not. And then some of the areas I'm pretty sure I'll need to be careful of are these end grains here. So I probably don't want to hit this too hard, because I'm willing to bet you could probably cause this to either splinter off or start splitting, depending on how much gusto you're giving it. So right now the paint's peeling pretty good. Should be interesting to see once it's clean how it looks. I'm hoping some of the paint's able to still be, you know, salvageable and has good adhesion. That way, you know, doesn't wind up somewhere in the yard. Which is something else you want to be careful of, is that you want to have something so you're protecting yourself. So right now I'm running some fun glasses. But also you want to make sure you don't have like sandals or like open-toed shoes. I've got my kind of crappy pair of shoes, so if I happen to swipe across these with the water and they get damaged a little bit, I don't care. They're already pretty damaged. And you also want to be careful for the stuff that it's going to knock loose. So it's going to launch some of this stuff at a possibly decent speed somewhere. So when you start spraying, you want to be careful of certain things like vinyl siding or plants you like, or anything that might be sitting around with like a glass countertop kind of surface thing, just in case something happens and gets launched and hits that. So I've got this hooked to the water, hooked to the GFCI. I already tested, but I can always test again, that this works. So you see the little green light up there, hit test, light shuts off, hit reset, light turns back on, so that's good to go. And then I'm hoping the majority of the water is going to go that way. Now, one of the big things you need to note, once you flip the power to on, you want to make sure it actually turns on, but it's this notice right here with how it says pressure washer will run only while trigger is pressed. When trigger is released, pump will turn off. Do not leave idle for more than 1 minute without spraying. That's in a lot of pressure washer stuff. And in trying to like review how to pressure wash, a lot of people have found that this is in their instructions, and most people just kind of glance over real quick. But if you're not actively spraying, you kind of want to shut it off. So holding a lot of pressure in there can damage your pumps, and that's why later on maybe your pump doesn't work because you left it idle for too long, which I'm assuming builds up excessive pressure in there and actually damages the pump seals or something. So just be careful whenever it says do not leave idle for more than 1 minute without spraying. Real quick, I'm going to put the gun in the holder, flip this to on, point this in a random direction, You can see, there it goes. And then we'll launch this stuff out of here. Woo! So there you go. That works pretty good. It's just one of those things you want to be careful, and always remember, if you can, and if you're going to take a break, to say, you know, talk about how well that just sprayed, go ahead and shut it off and relieve the pressure. And my main goal with this is mostly just to clean the deck off. I'm not looking to blast the old paint off. So any old paint that's good and adhered on, I want to leave it good and adhered on. But any of the paint that's like flaking, that part I do kind of want that to come off. So I don't know if I need to go to a smaller tip, but real quick I'm going to clean it with just a 40-degree angle one first, which is what I had on there. So it's the kind of like a gentler cleaning, and see how it turns out. And then I may go to a stouter one, but I mean, it'll only be if I need it. So kind of like right here, you know, that might be a good reason to maybe go to a stouter one. Whew, that's a big chunk of rust right there. So, first time out, definitely seems like it works. I'm hoping it does pretty good. I'll get back to you guys after I'm done. Alright, so that went pretty smoothly. It's kind of one of those things where it did kind of blow some of the paint off, but in the areas like this and stuff like that where there was some really kind of nasty, I don't know if it's like mildew or mold or something like that starting to grow, that just kind of cleaned that up really good. So now it's just kind of shows the wood underneath it. So some of the spots where it was missed with the paint, and the paint wasn't very thick. So plus it got all like the dirt, which, you know, if you, I suppose, I can't say I've ever hosed the deck down. So it blew off any of the dirt that would have, you know, a normal hose would have gotten off too. So, but pretty cool. This little ledge thing over here took a bit of a beating, but it didn't have too much paint left on it anyway. This pole really surprised me though, because that's really good to kind of find any kind of like weak paint areas now, as opposed to finding them later. So all in all, I'd say this went pretty good. That's pretty much it for like the light one. I'm gonna do a couple spots with this 25-degree one just to see what that winds up looking like, and to see if I wind up screwing anything up. But I would say all in all, this worked out really, really well. The pump kicked on, it worked fine. I got plenty of cord. There's a ton of cord there. Lots of hose. So you can go all the way around the deck, even stand on the other side from, you know, a good ways away. That way there's no chance the water getting to it. As I'm doing this a little bit more aggressively with the green one, I am finding that like where the paint's blasting off, it's got like some mold or mildew underneath it, so it's kind of greenish. And it's also kind of dirty underneath it. Dirty enough, you can write your name. And then let's just touch real quick on the things that I don't really like that much. So one of them's this hose reel. The hose reel's a neat idea, but because it's got a fixed point there and a fixed point on the gun, it's not like you can just have it attached and roll it up each time. You have to disconnect it from both sides and roll it up if you want to. They've got clips on either side for you to like wind it. For me, it's probably gonna wind up living over here with the wire. So it'll be the hose first and then the wire on top of it. That way the wire gets unhooked, ran away from any sources of water, and then the hose gets hooked up. But yeah, kind of a pain in the butt as far as that goes. And then I didn't use it, but it's got this soap bucket here. And you can kind of see that hose is already kind of kinked. So if you get one and you're wanting to use like different stuff, there's a slight chance that you might have to invest in a new hose, find a way to get that unkink and stay unkinked. And then to me, how the gun goes in here is just a little floppy. But otherwise, I mean, really for the money, there's not a whole lot to be complaining about. So if it was me, I almost wish it had like another hook system over here, or a big one just hanging down here. That way, instead of having that reel, you just wind it up kind of like you would your vacuum cleaner and then take it somewhere. But I don't know, not too bad really, just nitpicking. So you can definitely see like a lot of the wood is showing much brighter than it was before. I re-cleaned up where I wrote my name and you can kind of see it really like brings the grain out of the wood. So it's one of those things where you want to kind of be careful with it, but also it does a really good job of getting this clean. It was amazing the amount of like brown, so like the darkness in the wood here that it took out, which I don't know if that's just embedded dirt or if it's just like kind of like decayed wood kind of in there. So this came out pretty good. A lot of this got a lot cleaner. So this was all black and nasty. Now it's much brighter and cleaner. This was pretty nasty too. This still kind of nasty, and I'm willing to bet it's got some rot down inside of it. So that might be one of those things where sooner or later we'll need to replace that one. This came out pretty good too. It didn't do a whole lot as far as I can tell for like the rust marks I had up here, but it did really well for what I was wanting to do, and that's mostly just getting this nice and clean. So now I can take a really good look at all like the screws and nails, and hopefully either try and drive anything that needs to be driven further back in or knock them back down. I'm pretty happy with the purchase. You know, part of me does kind of wish I had more power. But that's the person that watches like Home Improvement from back in the day, but like, more power. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time.